You ever have one of those mornings where you wake up, shuffle out to your front gate with coffee in hand, and realize your whole life's just been hijacked overnight? Yeah, that was me, standing there on the crunchy gravel, jaw clenched, staring dead-on at a brand-new steel gate that blocked the only road in and out of my 200-acre ranch. Big, bold letters painted across it, screaming like a bad joke. Private access, HOA members only. I wasn't just locked out. These folks had fenced off my entire front boundary like it was some sort of military takeover. And get this, I wasn't even part of their precious HOA. Never signed a thing, never wanted to, but that sure didn't stop them from coming after me. They claimed it was for neighborhood security, said my ranch dragged down their property values. Meanwhile, my family's been working this soil since before their cookie-cutter houses started popping up like mushrooms after rain. Let me tell you, I was mad. First thing I did that morning was hop on my tractor, ready to push through their little fortress. But before I could even touch that gate, a pair of HOA-hired security guards pulled up, acting like they were guarding Fort Knox. Threatened to call the cops on me on my own land. I knew if I pushed, I'd end up on the evening news, so I backed off for the moment. But that didn't mean I gave up. No, sir. Instead, I did something they never ever saw coming. I turned that gate, the one meant to keep me out, into a public toll road. I marched down to City Hall, filed every piece of paperwork you could imagine, called in a couple favors, and by the time the ink dried, that private entrance was now officially a city-approved toll gate. I charged every single car, golf cart, even bicycles, $5 a pop, cash only. It didn't matter if you lived in the HOA or were just passing through. Everyone paid the toll. Folks started lining up, confused, angry, tired from their little morning routines being disrupted. One woman in a bathrobe hollered at the booth I'd built. "This is my neighborhood." I just smiled and pointed at the sign. Tollgate, $5 PR entry. If they thought they could run me off, they were about to learn just how stubborn I could be. What none of them knew, not even the smug HOA president, was that I had a secret ally tucked away in the city planning office, a good man who helped push the whole approval through at record speed. But you know how it goes. This war didn't start overnight. Let me back up a sec. I'm Lucas Grant, 47, ex-Marine, full-time rancher, living on the outskirts of Arizona. My land's always been peaceful, just horses, cattle, a few goats, and a sunrise worth waking up for. Then, not too long ago, bright orange survey flags started showing up along the edge of my pasture. At first, I figured it was the gas company or maybe someone running new fiber optic cable. But when I asked the workers, one guy said, "Community perimeter planning." I said, "Community of what?" He just shrugged and went back to his tape measure. Turns out, it was the Oakage HOA, the same neighborhood down the road with tiny yards and those weird plastic fences. Next thing I know, this fella named Paul Denson comes knocking, wide, oily grin, HOA badge shining like a sheriff's star. He starts talking about property values and neighborhood integrity, flipping open folders, acting like I'm just some squatter. He says, "iRidge has expanded jurisdiction, Mr. Grant. We'll be installing a protective fence and setting access limitations." I said, "You've got no legal right to touch my land, partner. I never signed your rules." He just smiled that slimy smile and told me to take it up with city zoning, said they'd already spoken. And that's how it began, a never-ending parade of calls, emails, and visits to the city office. Paul and his cronies filed enough complaints to get my access road under review. A couple weeks later, construction crews rolled in, set up posts, and before I could blink, that big metal gate went up. It wasn't just the fence that hurt. It was how my so-called neighbors started treating me. Folks who used to wave at me now looked away, or worse, tossed trash into my field like I was nothing but a nuisance. So I started digging, real deep. Discovered that the road they blocked wasn't even private. Half of it sat right on a public access easement. That meant I could apply to turn it into a public toll road, so long as I had a good reason, and wanting to get to my own house seemed good enough to me. It took months of paperwork, meetings, dusting off old land deeds, and a lot of coffee. But when I finally got that permit, it felt like I'd won a war. I built the toll booth myself, hired 2 farm kids to run it, and posted up signs that looked just official enough to make the whole HOA sweat. That first day the toll gate opened, the HOA board lost their minds. Cars stacked up down the street. Folks honking, shouting, some even trying to sneak through on foot. Paul Denson showed up, screaming through a megaphone. "This gate is HOA property and must be removed." I just handed him my shiny new city permit. "No, Paul, you put it there. I just decided to monetize it." You should have seen his face. Looked like a boiled lobster ready to pop. For the first time in ages, that night was quiet. No fights, no threats, just a cool breeze and coyotes howling in the hills. But deep down, I knew it wasn't over. Paul was the kind of guy who didn't know when to quit, and I wasn't about to let him steamroll me. Sure enough, not even a week later, Jake, my cousin, former Army Ranger, came running in, shouting, "Lucas, you need to see this." News was blaring. HOA president hospitalized after alleged assault at Ranch Gate. I nearly dropped my coffee. Authorities said Paul had bruises, an anonymous tipster called it in, and suddenly we were the suspects. Cops showed up. No sirens this time, just grim faces. Sheriff Cooper, a good man, sat at my kitchen table and laid out the whole report. "Lucas, I don't buy Paul's story, but City Hall's breathing down my neck." I looked him in the eye, then showed him the security footage. There was Paul, 3:38 a.m., alone at the gate, beating himself with a tire iron, flopping down on the ground for dramatic effect. The sheriff watched, mouth half open. "That enough proof for you?" He nodded slow. They arrested Paul that afternoon. False report, obstruction, trying to frame a federal nonprofit. Yep, my ranch was now officially a veterans retreat. But even then, the HOA board tried to wriggle out. They voted to disband, thinking that'd make all their legal headaches disappear. But I was ready. With Rick, a retired FBI agent turned private investigator, and my lawyer Mia, sharp as a tack, we filed a class action suit for every dirty trick they'd pulled. We named every single board member. Years of harassment, embezzlement, you name it. Public support flooded in, donations, volunteers, even local businesses dropping off building supplies. It felt like the tide was turning. Until, the night before our hearing, a new note showed up, taped right to the steel booth. "You're dead without US." No signature, but they'd used official HOA stationery. Talk about dumb criminals. Court day came, packed house, cameras rolling. Mia laid out everything. Photos, video, eyewitnesses, even that ugly note. I stood up, held the charred remains of my first toll booth, and told them straight. "I didn't start this fight, but I'll finish it. This land is home, hope, and history. We built it for soldiers, for neighbors. No amount of greed or intimidation will ever take it away." The room went silent. The judge reversed every HOA action, awarded damages, and slapped federal protection on our retreat. Paul and Trevor, his sidekick, both facing criminal charges. But you know how life goes. Just when you think the storm's passed, another cloud rolls in. Couple days later, my farm hand comes running, breathless. Someone's out back with a bulldozer. My heart about stopped. Sure enough, the HOA had leased a city dozer and were trying to cut a whole new road through my land. No notice, no permission, nothing. I hopped in my ATV, cut him off, phone recording. "You're trespassing," they said. I laughed. "This is my ranch, pal." Took down their names, snapped pictures of their equipment, and that was that. But it was clear they were getting desperate. That's when things really started escalating. Drone flyovers, slashed fences, late-night prowlers, arson. One night, someone snuck up with a gas can and torched my new toll booth, flames lighting up the sky. I rebuilt it, this time out of steel and bulletproof glass, solar panels running an automatic lift gate. I posted the footage online, suspect to be charged. The HOA hated it, but folks started paying attention. Rick tracked the arsonist, turned out to be the HOA's own vice president, caught on gas station cameras buying fuel and lighter fluid. Through all of it, the real community stepped up. Old-timers, young families, even a widow named MS. Harrove, who brought me peach cobbler, reminded me why we fight for what's right. But the threats kept coming, letters, vandalism, even an attempt to frame me for weapons charges. So I called in the cavalry, veterans, neighbors, friends. We set up round-the-clock patrols, campfires, lawn chairs, rifles locked up but ready. I wasn't going anywhere. Then, the HOA tried to seize my toll road by eminent domain, calling it a blight on the community. That backfired. Town hall packed, folks shouting on both sides, the whole mess aired on local news. I stood up and told the truth about my granddad, about the land, about serving this country. Some people clapped, others booed, but the tide was turning. And when they torched the toll booth again, this time leaving a threat etched in the dirt. Next time it's the house. I filed restraining orders, called them more friends, and made it clear I wasn't backing down. When a federal agent came to investigate after the HOA accused me of everything from illegal gatherings to stockpiling weapons, I showed him all the permits, all the footage, and the truth. He left knowing what was really going on. A smear campaign by a desperate HOA. Then one night, Jake and I caught the HOA treasurer sneaking onto my property with tools and a gas can, tried to saw through my fence at 4 a.m. We tackled him, handed him over to the sheriff, and that's when it all blew up. News cameras rolled. The community rallied behind us. Donations poured in, and the city finally moved to investigate Oak Ridge HOA for environmental violations and harassment. I opened the ranch officially as a nonprofit veterans retreat, just like my dad had wanted. Public support was overwhelming. Veterans, first responders, families, all finding peace on this land. And then, out of nowhere, a government grant arrived to build 10 more retreats across the country. The first one, I named it the Paul Denson Learning Center, a little reminder for any HOA out there that thinks it can bully the wrong rancher. So here's the thing. When they tried to lock me out, they ended up opening the door to something bigger than any of us. I didn't win just for me. I won for every neighbor who's ever been bullied, for every vet who needs a safe place to land, and for every stubborn soul who refuses to give up on what's right. So let me ask you, if someone came for your home, your history, your family's future, how far would you go to fight back? Would you stand your ground, or would you let them roll right over you? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me what justice looks like in your book, and whether you've ever tangled with an HOA that forgot what the word neighbor even means. Because out here, we take care of our own, and no gate, no bully, no big city lawyer's ever going to change that.